So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon on this another beautiful day in Nova Scotia. So thank you for taking the time of your afternoon to join us online, and hopefully you can get outside and enjoy the sun after this. This is almost over 2 months into our socialization series brought to you by Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic. And we're really happy to have people from all over the country joining us and learning from a variety of professionals and coaches across the country. So today we have Jack with us, who is a rugby coach. He is an academy coach for Rugby Canada. He coaches the national women's U20 team, and he's a provincial coach here in Nova Scotia. So we're really excited to have him on here today to share about how he's been engaging with his athletes during these current times. And through the presentation, we will ask that you stick to the chat box if you have any questions or comments, and towards the end, we'll open it up for a Q&A. But Jack, you can take it on from here.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I know it is very sunny outside, so my apologies for ruining that afternoon. And I know that this is probably webinar number 648 for all of you. If you're still going, fair play. I got up this morning to do one at 8 o'clock. I wanted to watch one from Europe, and it was 8 a.m. till noon. And I remember I just was staring at the screen going, I don't know if I'm still learning anything. So hopefully I'm not one of those moments for you guys. Yeah, it's an interesting topic. So I'm just going to share my screen and put it on. I will kind of ask questions, and there's that always, when you ask a question in a webinar, it's always incredibly awkward. So please feel free to put stuff in the chat box. As Kirsty said, I'm a rugby coach, and I'm based here in Halifax, and work with lucky enough to work with a couple of our national teams. And I'm also lucky enough to have some incredible people that I work with. So although Kirsty said that it's how I've been engaging, it's not really. It's all the great stuff that I've seen from our fantastic colleagues, both here in Nova Scotia and beyond. So I'm just going to share my screen with you here. Does that work? Lovely. Okay, I haven't lost everybody just yet. So for me, involved in whatever sport you're in, this has been a challenge. And the first things first is that we as coaches and as staff members just turn to say that we have to accept the challenge. And we know that it's the same with all our athletes. Big thing here is that it is an emotional roller coaster for all our athletes and for ourselves. If you look at the main aspects of life for our athletes or for ourselves, family life, work life, sport life, social life, there is not one of those things that hasn't been affected in recent months. And for us, it's about having an understanding and a bit of an acceptance that everyone's kind of in the same boat. One of the things that I realized is before COVID happened, there was a great aspect to the sporting world or the professional world where people kind of had a competition for who had less time, who was coaching more, who had more pressure on them, and suddenly this was almost a leveler for everybody, which if I'm going to look at it as a positive, I think that is a positive. It's that there's a lot of people being at one with each other on it, and that's something that I think we need to have a look at. I will throw a couple of links, or maybe I'll send to you, Kirsty, afterwards, just about other webinars from more professionals than myself on this topic, and I'll make sure that that's sent out. So the first question that I will ask in the Zoom is, how are we currently connecting to our players? So what little aspects? So either unmute yourself or throw it in the chat. And Kirsty, I can't see anything, so you can tell me if anyone comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if anyone. And what about you, Kirsty, seeing as you're a coach? How are you currently connected with your players?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different with Bring Up because our season is completely ended, and a lot of these athletes will stop playing Ring Out after this season, unfortunately. But we've been remaining in contact through like group chats, group video chats. And then in terms of my younger athletes, we have like an Instagram account where I connect with those athletes that I coach. So we've been putting out weekly Wednesday workout videos, a Friday fun activity, and every Sunday we do like an Instagram live Q&A with an instructor.
Perfect. And these are all the aspects that we're kind of looking at. So for me, and if there's anything else, Kirsty, please reach out. But for me, there's different aspects. Skype, WhatsApp, Zoom, Google Classroom, all these things have been really positive. The other ones that I don't know about, nor should I, are the Instagrams and the TikToks and stuff like that. And the thing that we want to be able to do is try and engage our athletes through that without having to take lead or charge. Instead of hiding away from the modern day technologies, embracing it, and even getting them to link up with us. Right now, realistically, athletes are missing quite a lot from their sport. This is just a quote from a different webinar, which I will send the link to, but just athletes cope with life through their sport. So right now there's a lack of structure, discipline, a lot of opportunities missed, a loss of identity and a feeling of belonging in their team. For me, for my athletes that I work with, the Canadian Sports Centre Atlantic, and including the coaches, the 4 days before lockdown happened, we cancelled an international trip to Ireland, and that's not only an emotional arm wrestle, but it's also an emotional and financial burden for a lot of people, and of course right now we're in the midst of things that we don't really know what we can get back fully. So there's a lot of unknowns, and so understanding that and being appreciative of it, I think is a major part of it. When we communicate with our athletes, it's one of those things that can actually give a sense of belonging, and that overused term right now in COVID, normality. Advice for reaching out. When we are reaching out, being practical, like giving our athletes tools, focusing on what they control or what we can control, highlighting strengths, of course, being empathetic and acknowledge the emotional part of it. Don't just leave it to the side, actually acknowledge it. And also not giving pep talks. We don't want to rile up people for something that we don't know when they're going to be able to do it next. In terms of this, we actually look at three aspects this is certainly borrowed from the senior women's Canadian national team, but three aspects that we look at are actually body, craft, and mind. These are the three things that we're looking for. Can anyone give me, and again, Kirsty, if nobody wants to talk to me, so I'll just make you do it. Can anyone give me what we might, if we're talking about reaching to our players, what the body might look like, what the mind might look like, and what the craft? What are we meaning by those three words? You can unmute yourself or post in the chat.
Hi, Jack. How are you? I would say, like, in terms of the body, you should present yourself in a positive body manner. So it can be authoritative, but not so much like with the rudeness or something. Just
Sure.
like to just convey your point like strongly to the athletes, right?
Sure. And what would you say, Moe? What would you say about, like, how can we give our athletes parts to develop for their body? Like, what do you think we're meaning by that?
Like your body language, basically, I'm talking about. It should be not so much authority, but you have to just be sure to just convey your point and your messages to the athletes. They just get it in one shot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe I didn't explain myself fully right, but I think we're right there in terms of you and your body. But
yeah.
what we're looking to kind of summarize this is actually how we can influence the players, their athletes, in terms of their body, about what the situation's at right now. So right now, if we look at our body, our craft, and our mind, in terms of just giving one example, our body might be introducing a team workout, which Kirsty has already stated. Our craft might giving individual skills within the confinements of your sport and in the confinements of your home. So coming up with interesting ideas to do that. For instance, a little thing that I've seen is passing an egg between your parents and making sure it's not boiled. So there's that little bit of fear. But this is hand-eye coordination, but it's also a bit of fun when you're certainly reviewing the videos. And then mind. So, for example, giving little opportunities for maybe meditation or doing yoga, which would fit into a number of these. when we are looking at the body, we're looking at probably we're going to mostly talk about fitness and nutrition. If we talk about nutrition right now, I don't know about all you guys, but I'm a lot closer to a fridge on a regular basis while I'm doing my day's work. And I find that if I've no idea what to do next, I think eating has been the primarily a winner there. So creating little schedules and nutrition challenges, and also with fitness. What we do with Rugby Nova Scotia with the fitness portion might be our clubs, for instance, have been we've got the Pig Dogs here doing, which is a rugby club in Dartmouth. They've been doing an Instagram weekly challenge just to send out to their players. We're very lucky to have Jeremy Steinbeck, which is here in the top. Jeremy is our lead strength and conditioning coach with the Celtics Academy, but also the Canada U20 program. We get him to do a weekly fitness challenge, which I started doing it myself, and I feel now I kind of have to keep doing it. But that goes out every Monday, and similar to what Kirsty's saying there about engaging on a Wednesday, the athletes know that it's coming, and it's something that they can say if they are feeling quite sluggish on that Sunday. Well, at least I've got something or somebody to tell me what to do on Monday. The other piece of it would be the yoga sessions themselves. There's so many fantastic resources in terms of yoga online that we can send to our athletes, or what we've seen, and Jeremy's like great ones for our national team players, of actually having yoga sessions via Zoom. Everyone's watching the same screen. You don't know if each other are getting to the poses, but it certainly brings back that sense of belonging and that sense of community to highlight it in. In the other one, in terms of body fitness, this is some of our Ignite athletes, and one of our women's international players just said, "Hey, I'm going to do a workout this week. Do any of the athletes want to do it?" And suddenly this becomes one of the favorite things of the week. So they might be enjoying the break of your voice as the head coach, but to bring in a sense of community, why don't you get one of your athletes to lead in a fitness session? And that could be, and the great thing about these Zoom calls is if it's a 45-minute limit, the athletes can certainly arrive with themselves, have it as a 45-minute limit, and then plan the rest of their day. And that's something that's been very positive. One of the other things we've done recently is we asked about nutrition. It's moving on to nutrition. We asked the players about nutrition and about how that was going, and a lot of them said it was a bit of a struggle. So we said, right, well, what are you eating for breakfast? So suddenly the idea of let's have an omelette challenge. So this is an Emma screenshot recording of our omelette challenge, of which I'm no Gordon Ramsay, but I led the omelette challenge. And what we did was we got all our players to we sent out a list of ingredients and what they need, and we got up at 9 o'clock in the morning to try and make sure that we started the day off right. And then we got all the players to just cook together. Now some of them were a complete disaster, and I think some of their dogs got fed more than them as athletes. But it was something that was very much beneficial and a positive thing. I will give you some of the highlights. Look at these. I mean, with the filters on Instagram, we're in a pretty good way. I will have to ask now what you think is the best one, because these were, now to be honest, I put in that top right to show that some of them were human. But the other three, would anyone have a guess to see which one is the best? I'd like to have a vote. Number 3, is this 3, or is this one, or this one?
One.
The bottom left with the orange slices. That looks the best.
Yeah, very good, Teresa. That was mine, so I'll take that. It's exactly what I wanted. And considering somebody that cooked one is also on the call, I win, which is fantastic. So these little things were great. One of them the whole thing ended up on the floor. Some of them looked like absolute disasters. But it was just, to be honest, it was 30 minutes of just pure laughter. the athletes were able to feel like they were part of the community. We as coaches were connecting with them, asking them questions, and like as I said, none of us are experts, but we were just having that sense of belonging once again, which is always a huge positive. Other ways of nutrition, like we want to try and challenge our athletes to eat balanced meals, but it's something that we can also add as coaches, that we're also finding this a little bit harder. Like it's not as easy to come up with ideas and to make eating in a structured manner. It's not as easy, but trying to keep on a regular eating schedule is always a big important one. There's lots of fantastic resources, and Melissa did a webinar, I think Kirsty, a few weeks ago, talking about the nutrition at these times, and these are resources where we as coaches can easily say, listen, here's some resources, but we're not the experts. So also giving some of the expert mind as well. And this is utilizing TikTok, for instance. I'm obviously so young and at one with the athletes and what they do, but this was just a challenge that Emma had on her team, where it was they were able to just do a bit of a TikTok meal of what they were doing. And honestly, it's again a bit of fun, but it gives the player doing it a bit of a challenge, but also talks about the nutritional value of each meal. And then one thing that I really liked was when they're staying hydrated at the end of every meeting, that they have the ability to cheers their water bottle, again to have that little bit of a human connection. So that's kind of going through our body. So we're gonna switch over here a little bit to our craft. So what do we mean by craft? We mean our sports specific skills, and we also mean just genuinely having some free play time. We've got a couple of examples here. So this is just Emma, who's on the call, actually works for Rugby Nova Scotia as well. Just a little example of doing a little bit of hand-eye coordination and rugby specific stuff. So the list that I have here is using FMS, fundamental movement skills. Hand-eye coordination for us in rugby, kicking is probably an extremely underdeveloped skill. So using some kicking, and then positioning individual stuff and position specific. So things that they can do around the house, where it's also not saying this is what you need, we need smaller things. So for the international team, the senior women's team that I'm lucky enough to coach, this is just a challenge that we post a weekly challenge every week. Week 1, skill 1, rugby ball, tennis ball, tennis racket. Feel free if you need to substitute anything you can. So we're going to go about 3 or 4 feet away from the target, which is what we're going to do when we enter. Tennis racket goes up on the ground, ball goes a little bit further away from you. You're going to bounce, you're going to try and change hands. So I'm going to bounce with the right, catch with the left. Bounce with the left, catch with the right. You're going to try and do 10. Once you've done 10, you pick up the rugby ball, you come across, and you make the pass. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You drop it, you come up, you pick up the ball, 2 hands on the ball, finish it right at the target, and try and point your fingers right up to the sky. Once you've done it off the left-hand side, do it off the right-hand side. Just keep it switching. Try and do it one direction, then the other direction. So we try and deliver a weekly skill to our international players, and then they have to post them themselves. So little opportunities here of showing us what they're doing in their own time and what resources they have. So here, Tusani didn't have a tennis racket, but she had 2 balls. So instead of bouncing on the tennis racket, she bounced the ball on the actual rugby balls themselves, and then delivered the skill. So these little bits of activity, and a great way of developing this further was having the players comment to each other. So we just have a little bit of a routine in our WhatsApp group, where if the players want feedback from a coach, because sometimes players don't want them, they're doing the job but they don't want any feedback, especially at this time. I'm a little bit nicer to them, where I grant their wishes a little bit more. So we get their if they send personally, individually to me, they'll get feedback. But if they post it in the group, it means that they're looking for other players to give a bit of feedback. And even if that's a thumbs up, that's completely great. With our organization, it's not just the national teams. With our organization, we've been looking at a lot of skills as well. And myself and Emma, who's on the call, do a skill every week. And this is for our younger athletes because, you know, rugby ended just as high school rugby was about to start. So we're trying to keep them engaged in a big way. How can we do that? How can we teach basic skills? So this is what we do each week. Welcome to Rugby Nova Scotia Skills Week 2. I hope everybody is staying safe and keeping well and keeping active. Last week, Emma did tackling with us. Hopefully you didn't just pick on your brothers, sisters, or any of your family members. And you made that tackle bag made from a sleeping bag. Today, I've got to take on her challenge before I can post you one of my own. So here we go. So this week, it's passing. Equipment needed, 1 ball, 1 cooler. Mark 5 steps out to make 5 passes. Now, our only major issue with that is that you have to be capable of delivering the skill, which, I'll be perfectly honest, was harder than I thought. This was the night before I shot that last video, and I'm just going to press play, and I want you to have a look at behind me. The beautiful blue sky that's there will slowly but definitely turn darker. This was me trying to get the ball inside the cooler 5 times. Due to fantastic editing of the last video, I was able to do it. But as you can see, it's starting to get darker. As you can see, I'm starting to become more frustrated as the time goes on. And to be honest, I sent this to a few players because it gave them a bit of a laugh in the middle of it too. I went out to do this and it took me, I had to go back the second day. Usually these skills videos are supposed to be quick and cheerful so everyone can do them and post them on Instagram pretty easy. This is about to get extremely dark. And as you can see, the ball hasn't gone into the cooler in quite some time, that I eventually just had to give up. And that would be for you guys is to, if a big thing is that I'm not brilliant at every rugby skill. So which ones of my athletes have the ability, and would it actually be great for their confidence if they were to run one of these or to create one of these, is always something that we find really beneficial. And when we do our Rugby Nova Scotia, we try to get them to post it online if they've copied it. And again, it's to spread the word of rugby as well. In terms of the mind, then moving on a little bit, little challenges and little free plays. We put a lot of these like can we create our own games here in the left. We've done some social media bingo about things that can come in our sport, because we want them to think about our sport as a positive thing. So creating whatever is a related bingo to you, this or that. What would you prefer to be position wise, or area of the game would you prefer? And then just giving little things and little challenges to say, hey, this week your challenge is just to go for a walk. Have a look at it. This challenge might be to watch a rugby game that you're not involved in. One of the things that we notice in our sport is that the game of rugby is something that people, they watch it, but they only watch their own games. And what we'd love to do is get people to watch other people. Watch the New Zealands and the Australias of the world, watch some of the best players in the world, and see what skills they have that you'd like to emulate. Moving on to the mind piece then, like the Calm app is always a really good one to give off, and it's always a great one for meditation, because you can do things, you know, for only 10 or 5 minutes, but it is a nice part of it to take that time out of the day. And then just again bringing back to the yoga. One of the other things that I love that Jeremy taught me was this Stroop effect. I thought this was excellent. So just a simple app where the players can go against each other, and they have to pick the color that they see on the top, which is quite a strange one because you've got different colors at the bottom. So you have to say, for instance, if we pause here, the color there, although it says red, the color is green. So you have to press, and right now green is red. So it's a great little playful tool, but it's also great at the end. You can get your score, and the challenge will come up, and you get a chance to challenge each other. And now Jeremy doesn't know this, and I think he's on the line, which I'm a little bit upset about. I didn't post what my score was because I could never beat any of their scores. So, but it is a great way to challenge it, and it's something that I've actually started using once a week. The other thing that I find quite interesting is what other skills can we develop while we're here? What other skills can we use in this situation? I don't know if anyone has ever seen this clip, but it's a video of a guy coming home from meeting his mother and father-in-law for the first time, and he's doing a press conference about how the dinner with the parents-in-law went. And this is the stuff that I think we can develop.
All right. Overall, it was okay. Fourth date, going with the parents, you know, that's always a little bit of a tough challenge, but, you know, you can't hang your head about it. You got to just, it's still early, still a long way to go. I don't think it's going to be our last date. Hope it's not. We got a long way to go here in this relationship, but, yeah, we'll see.
Her dad asked you or hit you with the expectations question. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, she prepared me for that, you know, so I should have known going in. I felt like I stumbled a little bit out of the gate, but I knew that question was going to come. Was I the most pleased with my answer? No, but I think that the response I gave is something that he can sit on for a while and he'll be okay with.
The jokes didn't seem to land as you wanted. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, it's always tough. You got to know what's going to come as jokes for them, what they like, what they don't like the first time going through. I mean, this is all new for all of us, especially me. So just trying to put my personality out there, and, you know, if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't.
What do you think of Mom's cooking?
That's one of my favorite videos I've seen since the lockdown. I thought it was pretty funny. And the reason why I showed it was, this is something that it's kind of quite an under-practiced skill. The percentage of our athletes that are going to become famous enough to be interviewed is very, very low. But the reason why we want to look at it is there a way of there's be some times where you come out of practice, and there's some times where our players will leave practice and they're a little bit upset at you as a coach, at other players. And one of the challenges that we try to utilize and we try to do is even though you've had that bad day, are you still in keeping with the values of your team? No matter if that's U12, U13, or whatever sport it is, or if it's individual. And so part of the reason why we might do mock interviews is basically so that if you've had a really bad training session, can you still be interviewed and talk about things in a positive way? Because we know that sometimes our players are annoyed or they've had a bad day, but when they come out again, we still want them to talk about the values, and we still want them to represent themselves, their teammates, and the program in a really positive way. So I've always found that that's a really fun thing to do. So how can you do that? Think about interview somebody if they're after the Omelet challenge. How do you feel it went? What do you think there's room for improvement? These little things, it's also quite fun for the age group, no matter the age group, from senior down to U12. I think the big thing here is what is positive about the situation we are in? What are the things that we can remain positive? For me, and I won't open to the group because that awkward time is always really tough for me. But the things that I've certainly am positive about this is I needed to have a couple of weekends off, and we all are in sport, be it volunteer, professionally. You don't have weekends off. So to have a few weekends off has been really nice. I've certainly seen the positives of the great province that I live in, and it's an important piece to do that. So that's a positive. Can we share that to our players? Do they get do they know that they're going to have a few Wednesday nights free this summer? Yeah, but it is a positive. But also we can build up our knowledge of the sport, and that's going to be always a big one for me. Your knowledge of the sport can be much greater by the time you go back onto your field or the rink or the slope or whatever it is, that they've picked up just that little bit more knowledge of the sport itself. Having a positive mindset is going to be massively important. So as teams, acts of kindness challenge, I've always enjoyed what we've had, and staying connected. So having a buddy system or a trivia night, or I know some people have had Netflix streaming parties, not something I know of. And of course, one of my favorite things, what Jeremy brought into the Canadian Sports Centre, which is the Kahoot, which is a great app if anyone is doing challenges with your team. Really, really good one to download. So for our mind to summarize, having a schedule, maybe having a buddy system, and maybe utilize actually having maybe a book club where people can pass around books or podcasts and talk about them afterwards. For me, a major thing is to empower the players. Getting the players to take the onus on this, because they are the people that know what's too much or too little. And this is just a little challenge that I saw, which was really great, which is, speaking of empowering the players, some of the players didn't have a rugby ball. So for those of you that know what rugby is, 2 hands on the ball, make a pass. But they had, obviously, it wasn't the shortage of toilet roll at the time. But instead of passing a rugby ball, they passed a toilet. And the challenge was to get it on the actual handle itself. So this is players just being inventive, which is something that I've really enjoyed about this experience, and certainly was fun. So just to finish it off here, like virtual practices is one of the other things that you can do. I know Emma's done a great job with Halifax West High School in having virtual practices, and they've come up with a schedule. They do it at Friday, 4 p.m. They have group check-ins for 5 to 8 minutes. They do life skills presentations, which I've enjoyed. And then they go on and learn rugby, but only for 10 to 15 minutes. And that's something that I found pretty positive. The one that she shared with me was there's a life skills presentation. This presentation was how to set the table, which I'm sure from a group of high school players was something that was very informative. For me, it's about presenting stuff to the players. So here we watch a game. We do it every 2 weeks with our senior women's provincial team as well, and a number of our teams, where we just watch a game. It doesn't involve any of them. Nobody's worried that they've done something wrong, but it's been a way of us just showing different types of playing the game of rugby, and then the players actually presenting to each other on maybe the games that we have played. So this is last summer, and this is where we had the players present stuff back, because our last game as Nova Scotia Celtics, the last game that we played, was last July. It's a long time, or last June actually, a long time ago. But so reviewing it after having a year of learning and being able to give a bit of feedback, you can look at it with much more maturity, and it's certainly a tool that I think I've underutilized in the past. One of the things that I do with here is, you're still a coach. And what is that summary? I'll give you something that I really like. I saw this again robbing on social media. I think we've all been on social media too much of late. But like, why you're a coach. I'm a coach because of the kids and the passion I have for the sport itself. There is no other feeling quite like helping young athletes further develop their natural persistence, determination, discipline, dedication, resilience, work ethic, heart, leadership skills, connection with and respect for others, not only in competition but in life. And for me, we're out of competition right now, so this is quite an easy thing that we can still do. Saying the words that I'm a professional coach, even though I haven't coached on the field for quite a long time now, it doesn't matter. Still feel like I am a professional coach, and these are the traits and the deliverables that I'm still trying to have with my players. So that's my last slide. Certainly open to having a few chats. Sorry if I rushed there at the end, but I was conscious of keeping in that 30-minute round.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jack. That was great. And no need to rush to, like, if you want to go back and go over anything, feel free. But does anyone have any questions or comments? Feel free to open up your mics or use the chat box.
Jack, I have a question. Like, we are still coaches, but how do you train yourself in these days? Like, what do you do to maintain your like coaching skills, and how do you improve on that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think a couple of things. I learned on a webinar. I've been on tons of webinars, and honestly, I actually think that if you do too many in a row, you're really reluctant to actually remember the information. And I've been using the term cookie cutter coaches at the moment, where you learn from 5 or 6 people that you think are brilliant coaches, and then you copy and paste, and then you try and become that coach. And I think during this time, because on Twitter, there's a lot of great coaches on Twitter, but at this time, there's a lot of information out there, so much. So for me, I think in the first week, I watched so many webinars, but I didn't have time to reflect. I didn't have time to make that information what was mine. So I've got 2 books that I carry around with me. So one is my day-to-day working journal, and the other is just focused on professional development. And what I have is every time I write down my professional development stuff that I've got from webinars, I pause and then I leave a half space to summarize it in my world, because I think that that's a really important stuff. There's always fantastic things going on at the moment, but if we can't take it, I think it and put it and make it adaptable in our world, it's just not good enough. And that's something that I really have. The other one is actually I've linked in away from my sport. So I've been linking in with coaches from outside of the rugby world, and also people involved in business. I had a really great presentation from a guy in the army the other day about leadership and a creation of plans, because all of this in sport, it's not new to us. It's not new to the world. It's been taken from the business world, or it's been taken from somewhere else. So actually just being open-minded to go and learning from anybody else. And the last thing that I'd say, Moed, is I've gone on LinkedIn and I've messaged people that I have no right to message. And I've done that with 3 people, and every single one of them has responded back to me. And I've had an opportunity to connect either on email or on a one-on-one Zoom. And that was something that I learned in a webinar was, hey, people are interested in talking if you just go out and talk. So just finding the time and emailing somebody to have a bit of a one-on-one and take 15, 20 minutes, I think is a really positive thing. You probably didn't bargain for that long an answer, Mo.
That's great. Thank you, Jack. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you again, Jack, for an awesome presentation. That was great. And there was some comments in the chat box about the omelet competition. Yeah, I also love that. So definitely something that we can all try as coaches, and some other good tips that we can try over the next couple of weeks or months, however long this continues. So thank you again, Jack, and thank you everyone for.
I'll throw my email in the group chat, and again, if somebody ever does want to connect, feel free to talk sport or talk omelets. Very open to it.
Awesome. Okay, and thank you everyone for joining us. Our next session is on Tuesday of next week. So keep an eye out for our schedule on the locker and on our CSC Atlantic website. And also we send out bi-weekly emails every Monday or Tuesday. So you should be receiving the most updated schedule early next week. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Thank you.